for the NAEIC seminar series. This seminar is live and recorded as well. Please respect the code of conduct, which is presented at the NAEIC site. And with respect to questions, you can place the questions in the chat if possible, and the answers will then be given at the end of the talk. Okay, welcome, Christine Holtkamp. She will give a talk as a relation manager for the Workplace Pride Foundation. The Workplace Pride Foundation has many international members, of which one is the NWO, the Dutch Research Council. ASTRON, the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy, as well as the Netherlands Institute for Space Research, SRON, are both part of the Dutch Research Council as institutes, and therefore connected to the Workplace Pride Foundation. Christine Holtkamp, she started her career as a nurse, specializing in mental health and public health sectors. Subsequently, she has been active in many different national and international organizations as a human rights activist, trainer, teacher, an organization consultant, manager, coach, innovation and diversity and inclusion specialist, project coordinator, and social entrepreneur. Okay, Christina's field of work are in healthcare and welfare, education, advocacy, central governments, housing corporations, NGOs, and innovative organizations. And with this talk, Christina will present the Workplace Pride Foundation and its activities in general and in research-oriented organizations. So, Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Koos. When you read it out loud, then it sounds too much what I'm doing, but yeah, that's a whole life of experience. But yes, welcome everybody also on my behalf. And I will share my presentation with you, the presentation about the work of Workplace Pride, what we do, where we stand for, but also I have at the end some questions, and I will also refer to the situation in Ukraine for LGBTIQ+ refugees. But that's for later on. Yeah, I'm working closely together with NWO, the Dutch Research Council, and from there I serve all kind of institutes that are related to NWO. So here is the presentation. Yes, hope everybody can see it clearly. Workplace Pride, the international platform for LGBTIQ+ inclusion at work. We have a lot of national and international members, and there are some level of members. Koos, are you hearing me loud and clearly?
Yes, it's all going well.
Okay. Now here you see the overview of the members, and last week there came 2 new members in, so they don't fit at this moment in this overview. But you have 3 levels of members that are related to Workplace Pride, and that is a leader level, a partner level, and a member level. NWO, somewhere in the middle, you can see it, is on a member level, and that is something like how much an organization pays for its for the services of the foundation, and also organizations that are a little bit ahead of all other organizations like ING, like IBM, like Shell, who have already a long history in working on LGBTIQ+ inclusion. But as you can see, big names on the list, and also they gave a good example to the world to be LGBTIQ+ inclusive. 33% of your life is spent at work, and 30% is the percentage of productivity and creativity loss we estimate if LGBTIQ+ people cannot be themselves at work. And very important to this is, but that also is for other minority groups in an organization, like people of color, people with disabilities, or distance to the labor market, or women sometimes, or young people also. But very important is, if you cannot be openly yourself at work, this is bad for you, for yourself, bad for your employer, and ultimately also bad for the economies due to productivity loss. I totally understand that you will understand this, that if you cannot be yourself, it's not good for anybody. Okay. Here you see an overview. This is the ILGA, the latest map of ILGA from December 2020. And you see here, yeah, I think you can see there that the deep red color, that are the countries that there are most dangerous for LGBTIQ plus people. And the blue countries, or the deep blue countries, most protection against discrimination based on sexual orientation. Now, homosexuality is criminalized in 70 countries, and it's difficult to navigate for international active organizations. So, as you saw, the overview of all the members of Workplace Pride, but you can have a policy in Western Europe in a good way, but if you have offices or plants in countries where it's criminalized, then also you have a duty there to take care of the people, but also a duty to see if you can influence the government. So that's something where we speak about with all our members, and especially our international members, a lot, to see if they can handle with our policies in countries where homosexuality is criminalized. And that at first the employees of the companies are protected at work. Now, what we do is we give expert advice and guidance. That we work with our members to help them to be more inclusive with their LGBTIQ plus policies and practices, and we provide for that tools and advice and expertise, and we connect our members with each other, and that's also a very important part. Like an example, this week one of the partners of Workplace Pride asked me, do you have a good example of a company who was already far ahead in a gender inclusive HR program in an organization? But also last week I got a question from another organization asking me, can you give me a good example from another organization in parental leave for rainbow families? So that's also what we do. Here are the relationship managers. One of them am I, and there are two regional managers, and that is Levis and Christine in Asia, Levis in Nairobi. And as we speak, our CEO of Workplace Pride, David Pollard, is in Nairobi to speak with them, because we help organizations all over the world to also make policy there, and to create little foundations, Workplace Pride foundations for them there, and they are the liaisons to work that out. So that's Levis and Christine. One of the tools that we provide is the global benchmark, and that's an evidence-based survey developed with the Leiden University here in the Netherlands in 2014, and it is designed for management-based decision-making and also peer-based comparison. It's a baseline to see how you score on LGBTIQ plus inclusion, and you see here all the fields where you have to provide also evidence in. It's policy and communication, it's employee networks. You cannot see maybe here Societal impact, business and supplier engagement, expertise and monitoring, inclusion and engagement, and supports and benefits. That are all fields where you can score on, and then you can see how it is going in your organization on LGBTIQ plus inclusion. And we also do a trend monitoring for organizations that already fill it in for some years. But also new members of Workplace Pride, but also members that are not sure to participate already. They can use this as a service from Workplace Pride, also as a baseline, how you score. And that's and then we also offer a learning and development program, and that draws upon 15 years of experience and knowledge gathering. And we have created 10 modules of all kind of phases where organizations are in. So the getting started modules, but also the making progress, the allyship, the advanced equality, and the advocate stadium. And it is also part of the membership level that they get a module for free, or they have to buy it. But that is something not so important for you. But this is a very good tool to also improve your work, and it is connected with the global benchmark. So all the topics that are coming to stage in here in the learning and development program are related to one of the fields in the global benchmark. Now there are also global outreach activities, and coming up the 31st of March, there will be a live event in Dubai that was postponed due to it was primarily planned in February, but due to the corona crisis and still a lot of cases there, we had to postpone it, but it is now set on the 31st of March. And that's an open event for our members. And as you can see, all over the world, we organized events, but also in challenging countries like pre-2021, before the corona crisis, we could do more things. And then we were in Kiev and in Moscow, but it's also in close collaboration with our Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands. And often they offer their embassy to host an event there. And in 2021, there were the new laws created by Orban to have a LGBTIQ plus free country or zones in the beginning. And that's why we, together with our members, we organized there last year in May a workplace inclusion conference. But at the end of the day, it was an online conference. It was meant to be live, but it was online. And you can understand that this happens because of the COVID situation. So we had to be very flexible the last 2 years. We did a lot online, but now it's a little bit getting better, and so we can do things live now again, and that's good. So this year is planned 31st of March, Dubai, and in the fall there will be an event in Tokyo. Now, additional activities here. There is research. We have a special chair at the Leiden University who is doing research for LGBTIQ plus workplace inclusion. And also just now a white paper on LGBTIQ plus corporate advocacy came out, and it will be presented by Workplace Pride on the 11th of March. And then we have special communities, and that are focus groups on focused topics like women, young people, technical focused academia. Last year, I organized, or we organized together with NWO, with Leon Oudekerk from Center for Mathematics in Amsterdam. We organized an event in Eindhoven, and that was great. So it's all for all technical focused organizations like ASML, like members of Workplace Pride. Young at Workplace Pride has created a mentorship program for young and senior professionals to meet each other and to learn from each other. So it's cross-mentoring program, and that's working. There are 100 people joining this mentorship program, so that's great. Women, the special focus for women, also within the L of LGBTIQ+, still the men rule the world, so women need to have also a place to organize activities. And then academia. Academia is all the academic organizations who are members of Workplace Pride. They join this group or this community, and we are looking at the organization of academical institutes, but also we look at the curriculum. For example, last year we organized a webinar about queering the curriculum. And also last year we organized a Purple Friday meeting. It was a breakfast meeting, and that was very well joined. I think over 100 people joined that. That's especially a Purple Friday for young, to give young people the podium, but it is also supported by the academical world. And as we speak, we are organizing or preparing a new community, and the working title is Trends at Workplace Pride, and that's meant to have a focused group on problems and challenges the transgender community faces in the workplace. Then there is a place for knowledge sharing, and we created a toolkit for the UN standards of business conduct, dedicated webinars, a civil society and business toolkit, and there is the Free to Be Me project. And I told you already, the two people who are in Nairobi speaking now, to have similar small organizations in countries like in Africa and in Asia, to help also the smaller businesses there to be more inclusive. And there are also always is time for fun, but or for good things or for content, and that's the annual international conference. This year it will be on the 24th of June. It is going to be organized in Amsterdam. There are connecting member events, and there is always, at the end of the whole cycle of the global benchmark, there's a leadership awards gala. Last year it was organized in Amsterdam in the Scheepvaartmuseum. That's the big museum for all the shipping industry, but also the shipping history, and that was just before another lockdown, so everybody was happy to join that. Then I would like to give you, but Koos, do you think it's okay around the general information of Workplace Pride if there are questions?
I'm checking the chat, but I haven't seen any questions so far.
Okay. Sure. Okay, so, or I'm very clear, or the story, I don't know, but maybe there will come some questions later. Okay. Okay. Now then, I will explain some more in depth about LGBTIQ+, what the letters mean, and what it means to be LGBTIQ+ at work. But first, a word about the current situation in Ukraine. If you want to offer support in any way to the community in Ukraine itself, or those who are fleeing at this moment, there are two organizations here who are trying to support these groups, but because you can understand when you are an LGBTIQ plus person and you flee to Poland, and in Poland there is a lot of discrimination also towards people of color, but also towards LGBTIQ plus. The same for Hungary. People are there and fleeing there from Kiev or from other places in Ukraine, and then they are there and are discriminated again and don't feel safe there. So these are two links to look at, to check. Maybe you want to support that. It's something that I share with our members also, because they ask, what can we do? Of course, you can donate money in general for food, for all kind of things, but this is especially for the LGBTIQ plus community, who also is part of the world of Ukraine and are fleeing too. Maybe you've seen the news yesterday that also some people of color were not admitted in Poland, and a lot of discrimination, or they are standing last in line. And this also counts for the LGBTIQ plus community, because they're fleeing to countries where homosexuality is criminalized. Yes, a lot of people always say to me, yes, all these letters, is that serving the purpose? I can understand when you don't know the community from inside, then you think, yeah, then I can understand that you think, oh yeah, that's a letter soup. Let's call it a rainbow family or something. But for the people itself in the community, it is important to have a letter where they can hang on, and also where they can organize themselves from. So here you see all the explanation about all the letters that are in the rainbow alphabet. And the first three letters refer to the sexual orientation, but also the transgender persons. It's more gender identity. Then you have a medical condition, and then there's gender expression. That's different. And the younger generations, they would like more to use the Q letter, and that's for queer. And that's more an umbrella term. Here is some more explanation about that. And the older generation is seeing this as a painful expression, the queer, because that was in the 60s, 70s. It was an harassment, something to shout at people. Are you queer? But now it's a name that is more reflecting what people in the younger generation feel. And it's like what's saying here. I like saying that I'm queer because I am. I don't fall on society's ideas of traditional sexuality or traditional gender identity. And I'm okay with being queer. And then the word cisgender is used a lot in a way. And cisgender means that it refers to individuals who assigned who assigned sex at birth is congruent with their gender identity. And then, but because I don't know how this group is, what the consistency of this group is, but is it a question to think about? Do you know somebody at work who identifies as LGBTIQ plus? Or maybe you are yourself, but also give it some thought. When you are at work, do you know somebody? Is there a colleague? Is there a colleague that fits in one of these letters? Now let's talk about the know. I don't know people. That the reason could be that, and this is a human rights campaign 2018, that 46% of the LGBTIQ plus people at work are closeted there. And in the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights from 2020, they are saying over 50% of the respondents do not or only rarely reveal their sexual orientation or gender identity in their private and professional lives. So that's a huge percentage. It's half of the community doesn't come out of the closet. And also, yeah, it is sometimes worse to be at work to come out of the closet, because then people think, oh, you are not certified, or you are not the right person to do this work. I had also a conversation at an event of NWO. It was 2 years ago, and there was a professor in Groningen in what was it? No, in mathematics, and she said, I'm married with a woman, but I will never tell. Maybe sometimes to my close colleagues, but for the rest, when I am somewhere in the United States or wherever, I will never tell, because I'm a woman in this field of work, and also I'm a lesbian woman in this field of work. So I will never tell, because then people don't take me seriously enough. So if you reflect on that, then you see that is horrible. And there are two handicaps. I put it between brackets, because being a woman in a man's mostly man profession, it's already a big fight, and if you are a lesbian woman, it's a double fight. But these are figures that speak for themselves. And if you think about your colleagues, is it possible that your LGBTIQ plus colleagues choose not to come out at work? And why is that? I just gave an example from a professor, but now this is what people face: discrimination or harassment. The differential treatment of an individual or a group or of people based on their personal characteristics. That's the definition of discrimination. And harassment is unwelcome conduct toward an individual or group of people that is based on their personal characteristics. You have three ways of discrimination or harassment: verbal, physical, or psychological. Verbal is, whoa, you don't look gay. Physical is, some guys bumped into my shoulder at work and walked away laughing. And psychological, for example, is you don't get invited to social events. And maybe you think, this is not happening at my work. But under the waterline, it's happening everywhere. Here where I live in the Netherlands, but also in the Western world, but of course more and more in the countries where the homosexuality is criminalized. Here you see, as of December 2020, at least 42 UN member states have legal barriers for freedom of expression on issues related to sexual and gender diversity. And then you see 67 countries, UN member states, with provide criminalized consensual same-sex conduct, 6 countries with death penalty for the legal prescribed punishment for consensual same-sex sexual acts, and 5 additional UN member states where death penalty may be imposed for consensual same-sex conduct. And if you follow the news, at this moment not, but before, when the war didn't start in Ukraine, these kind of things came up a lot of times, and there are always a lot of demonstration all over the world. Now, the yes question is, how would you feel if you were treated like your LGBTIQ plus colleagues? Here you still see another explanation about the letters. Now, imagine you are from the community, and maybe you are the listeners today. What would be your fear in the workplace? That's also a question that you can ask yourself, and it will work. It will help you if you imagine that what it means. Here you see 3 examples of professional athletes. That's Megan Rapinoe from the US football soccer team. Maartje Pauwme on the right. She was the captain of the Dutch hockey team, and the 2 ladies of the Swedish team. It is professional athletes in the women's world. There are more women out of the closet as lesbians, but in the male, for example, football world, almost nobody is out. And when sometimes they come out of the closet, but then they stopped already their professional career. Because when you see in the soccer stadiums that people are shouting at people of color, for example, what would happen if somebody of the big football players, like Ronaldo or Messi, came out of the closet? What will happen? Maybe these gods in football, they will be forgiven, but the little smaller football players, there will be always discrimination from the audience. But in the women's sport world, it is already a little bit more accepted. The fear in your life starts early and it doesn't end easily. You see the cycle of life, beginning in the womb, ending in a coffin. In all the stadia, you can have fears. And yeah, that's something to think about. And fear is a very bad feeling and also energy-taking feeling. Here you see the ultimate punishment, death, and that's especially focused on the transgender persons. And you see in the transgender community 3,314 murders of trans and gender diverse people were registered worldwide that were killed between January 2008 and 30th of September 2019. And you see it here divided in the Central and South America a lot, Asia, Oceania, Africa. And it is not only death by punishment by the government, but also shot on the street, stabbed on the street, or beaten. And that's a horrific number of persons that have been punished, who have been killed. What also important is, and I say on top, give it some thought. Have you witnessed or overheard insensitive remarks about LGBTIQ plus people? Something to think about. Like this. Did you know he is gay, or she? That's so gay. I don't understand transgender people. Who is the man in your relationship? Is asked oftenly to women who have a relationship. Bisexual people are so lucky; they can just meet anyone out there. And this may be obvious examples, but there are so many more examples around insensitive remarks, jokes, small jokes, and it is not always intentional, but it is also. People, when they don't know, they sometimes say things that are not nice. It's also something when to a person of color, somebody says, "Oh, I don't see color." A lot of people of color are offended by that because there is a difference, but that is not bad. that there is a difference, but you see there that you think, oh, I'm so tolerant or something that I don't see colors, but for the person itself, there can be a difference, but that is not important, but it is, you cannot ignore it. And that's the same for people from the LGBTIQ plus community. Now, 53% of the LGBTIQ plus workers report hearing jokes about lesbian or gay people, and 41% transgender specific, and 37 bisexual specific jokes. There is a thought again. Have you said anything to a person who made a derogatory comment or joke? Is there something that you stand up for a colleague or for a person that you're standing next to, and they make a joke about to him, her, or they? Superpower, a very important issue. Your superpower privilege. A privilege is a right or an advantage gained by birth, social position, effort, or concession. And in the perspective of the LGBTIQ plus community, we look then at or heterosexual or cisgender. And here you see a heterosexual is emotionally and or sexually attracted to the opposite sex. And cisgender is gender identity matches the sex assigned at birth. And understand the superpower. That is something, a lesson learned for people who do not fit in the LGBTIQ plus community. These are the advantages that you have. You can talk openly about your partner, express affection in most social situations, have positive and accurate media images or of people with whom you can identify. That's changing at this moment. If I see commercials on the television, then people from the community, for the LGBTIQ plus community, you see in commercials, but you see also people of color. You cannot see a commercial now anymore without having or a mixed family with a black woman and a white man, or a Moroccan, or people from the Orient, or it is more mixed. A lot of organizations also know we cannot go anymore only showing white people in commercials, but also in this perspective of the LGBTIQ plus community, that you also have people who you can identify with, and share joint child custody. Heterosexual, for the heterosexual people, that's normal. Your basic civil rights will not be denied. And for cisgender, use of public restrooms without fear of verbal abuse, physical intimidation or arrest. Walk through the world and generally blend in, not being constantly stared. And your identity was not formally, until 2013, considered a mental pathology. So if you are different or you look different, like a queer person with a lot of colorful clothing, other hair, makeup, for especially men who wear makeup or high heels, always stared at. But you don't fit in the normal way of people thinking about the world. Now, the heterosexual straight privileges are social acceptance, legal protection, and representation. And just like I said, now talking openly about your relationship, vacations, family planning, and your lover, partner, that's normal. Going wherever you wish, knowing that you will not be harassed, beaten, or killed because of your sexuality. When I'm going on holiday with my wife, my partner, and some years ago we were in Uganda, where it is criminalized to be from the community. then we will never tell people that we are a couple. And that is something that a lot of people from the community experience when they travel through the world. There are special traveling guides to look at, to see if it is LGBTIQ plus friendly. And it is not so that you are being harassed or discriminated every day, always in these countries, but in official situations, you never tell. Of course, when you go to France, no problem, or to one of the Western countries. But when you travel, like I said, to Uganda, or to very strict Muslim countries, then it is difficult to tell that you have a same-sex partner. And representation, additional having role models of your gender and sexual orientation. I think in all countries of the world, there are more and more role models, and that's good, that you can see I'm not alone. And the cisgender privileges, human rights, you can use public restrooms without fear or verbal abuse, physical intimidation or arrest. And you can reasonably assume that your ability to acquire a job, rent an apartment, or secure a loan will not be denied based on your gender identity or expression. Because also the HR or the systems within when you want to have a mortgage, for example, so in some of these offices only it's possible to fill in he or she. But what if you are a person, a non-binary, not fitting in he or she? What to do? But also for transgender people who are in transition, when you want to be a woman from a man, you are a man and you want to transition to a woman, and in that time in between, you still have your passport on your male identity. And privacy. Strangers don't assume they can ask you what your genitals look like and how you have sex. That's also something strange, that it's always something that can be asked to LGBTIQ plus people. How do your genitals look? And how would you handle the situation differently? Now, here's an illustrative example. The HR department asked for your opinion about setting up an inclusive bathroom in the office. The HR person mentioned that there is some pushback from some employees saying that there is no need for it. They also say nobody is going to use it as they don't want to be seen as gay. At this moment, the whole discussion about gender neutral or inclusive bathrooms is going on. Here in the Netherlands, we had a lot of cases that came out of sexual harassment, and a lot of women say, please let us keep the special bathrooms for women, because I feel more safe there. Because when there is a man coming in who is known as a sexual harasser, then I'm not safe. But anyway, this is a continuing story. And also here, next example. Oh, I heard that Dan is planning a wedding with his boyfriend. I wonder which one of them is going to wear the wedding dress. Why? Why should you ask it? But it is an example that people can tell to you. Now, imagine an LGBTIQ plus inclusive workplace. If it's there, what would be the benefits? Now, you cannot be happier here. It is a little bit old research, but it's the last research that was done by the Harvard Business School. Less stress, more openness, more communication, more innovative ideas, happier employees, inclusive culture, new knowledge, competitive advantage. And this is not only for the LGBTIQ plus community. This also counts for example, for people of color. When you have a more inclusive workplace, you get happier employees, inclusive culture, new knowledge, and competitive advantage. And a conclusion about this, about your superpower, if you are heterosexual or cisgender, you can use your superpower to create more welcoming work environment for the LGBTIQ plus colleagues. And that's a big superpower that you have. This was it. This was my talk. I hope it was not too long. I tried to give you also some examples, and I hope I emphasized also the importance of a workplace that is LGBTIQ plus friendly. And people say, yeah, but we are giving all kind of trainings on diversity at the workplace. No, you must mention it. You must name it. We always say words do matter. If a CEO of an organization says out and loud clearly, LGBTIQ plus people are more than welcome in our organization, then also young people, students who look for work will come to this organization. So you have to say it out loud. And also, very important, in the top layers of the management, there must be representatives of people of color, of women, but also LGBTIQ plus people, persons. I will stop share. Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Christine. It was very
Welcome.
interesting to read and very interesting to hear. Also seeing so many different companies that are connected to Workplace Pride organization.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen many questions in the chat yet, but I do have a couple of questions that came up during your presentation. The first one was that you showed the global benchmarks. At least they were done. The results of the benchmark done in these organizations, how are they handled? Are they open? Are they free to read, or are they used only at the organization? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Mm-hmm. Now, we never share the results. So the level where they're in. Are they ambassadors? Are they advocates? That we share. And that we share also on the Global Benchmark Gala that is in the end of October this year. But we never share the exact results, like the percentages. We never do that. That's a privacy issue also, because that's also for organizations that don't score so well. If you throw it in the open, but it doesn't say, and it doesn't say all when an organization doesn't score well, then there is a learning curve. So we never share the percentages, but we share there's the Global Leaders Award Gala. So organizations that score very well, they get an award for their scoring. But then in a section like advocates or best scoring public sector 2022 or that kind of things, but never the numbers.
Okay, but are they then fed to the organizations that performed this research? Or can they learn from their results? Do they know where they are approximately in, let's say, in the hierarchy, in the levels of other companies?
Yes, yeah. Maybe I don't understand your question totally. I mean, at the end of the process, they submit the global benchmark somewhere in April. And then we do analysis on their scoring and also on the evidence that they submit, and then they get their results. And at that moment, then if it is a member that I'm responsible for, then I'm going to have a talk about the results, and I'm going to give explanation about it and what they can improve for the next year. And and we try to do that as early as possible, so you can adjust also in the year that you get the results, work on new things for the next year. Is that an answer to your question, or was it also?
No, this is perfect. So it means that there is feedback from the results from the organization, and there's a comparison for them to the, let's say, the average, so they know where they are there. What
and the other thing is we extract the good practices. We don't say best practices because that's maybe too much, but the good practices of all organizations on all the levels of the global benchmark, all the fields of the global benchmark, like policy and communication, like employee networks. And then if organizations ask, we share it with them. But we do also webinars, like the 15th of March, together with my colleagues, I've organized a transgender policy webinar. And that is a member exchange event. So they can also learn for this year, but also to see how can they do that in their organization. That's one of the things in the support and benefit field of the global benchmark that they can they can use also for next year. So all kind of topics come around the whole year, also related to the topics in the work in the global benchmark.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, then I have one other question, which is maybe a bit more complicated, but it's something like you mentioned about these dangerous countries. Countries where it is really dangerous for people from the LGBTIQ community to be there. Nevertheless, like we are all researchers, and there are many conferences globally organized in many different countries. What would you advise for professionals like us if conferences like in these countries are organized? Go there, don't go there? Is there a way to express the difficulty there? Do you have any information on that?
Yeah. There are different answers to this question. Organizations who have a policy on that, they create, like, let's say, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the Netherlands. They have embassies in all over the world, also in very dangerous areas. And they have to do a risk analysis for their, not only for violence or for war or for diseases, but also, is it safe for an LGBTIQ plus person to go to a certain country, to the embassy? They have a policy that everybody is welcome to be an ambassador. If you are a woman, person of color, or from the community. So they have to live that word too. So they make risk assessments. If you are an ambassador, for example, in Uganda, coming back to that example of the Netherlands, and you are a homosexual man, is it safe to work there? And so a lot of organizations do a risk analysis, and I've spoken with the NWO also about this, because you have a lot of researchers and people who go all over the world, also to unsafe countries. So that's one part, the responsibility from the organization who is sending out a person. And the other part is that the organization has to provide, or the organization in that country itself has to provide information about the safety and the do's and the don'ts. And of course, you also have your own responsibility to look at the map and to see what is happening here, what are the do's and the don'ts. When you are a gay researcher and you go to a country where it's criminalized, think twice to go to a gay bar or something. But yeah, and that's on one hand, and also it is important to speak about it with your colleagues if you are there. Of course, you don't need to talk all day about your sexuality. That's not the intention, but it has to be safe where you are, in your own country, but also in the country where you go to. So in this specific example that you have researchers going to different countries, use your common sense, but also it would be great, and a lot of the members of Workplace Pride who are advocates have policies for this. So they help also their employees. If you go there for a conference or for something, know that it is dangerous. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. If there's a problem, call the embassy.
Okay, thank you very much. Marjolein, you have a question?
Well, actually, coming to this, responding to this, actually what I'm hearing is that you say, don't do it. That's what it comes down to, basically. Don't go there. That's the message that I'm getting.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, that was not the message that I want to get to send out. The message is use your common sense, and you can always go everywhere. But if there is an issue around your sexuality, be prepared. You are going there for your profession or for the research that you do. You are not going there because you are from the community, but you must feel safe when you go to a country. So I don't recommend do not go, but use all the information you have and use your common sense and see.
Yeah, but if the information says, well, don't go there, then
yeah. If yeah, in certain cases, like I said about my visit to Uganda, or I've been working there. I've been working in Somalia, for example. Now you cannot come out of the closet there. So don't ask, don't tell. That's the thing. You can go, but don't ask and don't tell. So it is not my advice not to go, but be aware of the threats or the challenges you can face. And that's why I also see the responsibility for a lot of organizations that they must do a risk analysis when they send out. It's not only with researchers, but like IBM sends out people all over the world, for example, and they have a policy on a risk assessment. They do a risk assessment. If you go there, don't do this, don't do that, but you can work there perfectly if you don't tell.
Ilse, you like to...
Is that an answer? Sorry, Marjolein.
Well, it helps if it doesn't show what your problem is. If it's because in my case, I think it's pretty obvious. You don't have to tell. So
yeah. That's more difficult. And if you are protected by your organization, if you know where to go also when there is a problem, then it's okay. And then otherwise, sometimes it is not wise to go, because then you are in danger. And that's not the intention of your work. But it is horrible that it is like that. I feel with you, because it's horrible. Yeah. I mean that you cannot be free all over the world. And I'm complaining sometimes that I cannot speak myself out. When I have friends, I've been working in Argentina, for example, and at some point I had made some friends there, and they asked me, do you have a partner, etc. And I dare to say, yes, I have a partner. I have a female partner in the Netherlands. And then I didn't see them anymore. No, they couldn't understand it. This was some years ago, but because Argentina, the situation is improved also. But yeah, but a lot of people always ask me, what is your husband doing? So yeah, that's more easy. I don't need to tell. But if you do, sometimes you get a big hit that people don't want to interfere with you anymore. Sorry, Koos.
Yes, I think it's perfect. Ilse, you wanted to.
Yes. I had a question related to this. So you spoke about people going from accepted countries to countries where this is a problem. How does this work for the partners in Workplace Pride that actually also hire local people? Do they have a commitment to the local community to make this negotiable or to talk about this more openly and then drive maybe a change process locally?
Yeah. That's also a responsibility. I think I already explained that a little bit earlier in my presentation. Especially the leaders who are leader membership, but also the people who have an advocacy status in the global benchmark, through the global benchmark, they have a responsibility in the countries where they work also to protect the local employees and to take care that they feel safe at the workplace. And if there are possibilities, also influence the local governments or the governments. You can imagine Shell, the example now is they withdraw from Russia, but they can make a difference in countries where it's criminalized. Not only for their own employees, that they feel safe in their working environment, but also to influence with their power the governments. Mm-hmm. And they do.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to follow up quickly with what I can see may be very, very difficult. You can supply all sorts of safety protocols in these countries. But for the people coming from that country, it may be very scary to even at the local workplace when they work for such a company to come out as gay or non-binary.
Yes, but it is also
you don't see it from, if you don't see it from the outside, you're so used to telling nothing or being very quiet about this. Is this also something that they work with the people on how they can be more safe in that sense?
Mm-hmm. Now, it is at first a responsibility also for the local management at the plant or the office there, that they are aware of this problem. So these big organizations, for example, IBM has an umbrella in the United States, and they have everywhere in the world plants or the offices, but they make a global policy. And at that moment, they take care of that all the management in all the countries, also the countries where it is criminalized, that management has had training courses on this, awareness training, and also how to help. So, but then you have reached a level that's quite high. But I mean, in your policies. But that's what a lot of organizations also are willing to do. But that's sometimes a long way to go.
Yeah, but it's good to hear that it's really going through all the levels and very well based in also in the higher level and commitment of the global companies. And glad to hear that, at least from that part. I think driving change from that direction can sometimes be more effective than always through the political channels.
Yeah. No, and I had last week I had a conversation with ING, big Dutch bank. They have branches all over the world, in Asia and Africa, and I gave a global benchmark 2022 presentation for them for the global D&I, the global D&I in HR, and they that is a group of 30 people, 40 people who work together on their policies, but it is, they make the policies for all these countries, but there is a global umbrella saying, and you have to protect your LGBTIQ plus employees. And in a smaller example, I spoke to people from ING in Hungary, and they don't feel safe at the street, but the policy in the organization is that people can be themselves at work. Also, they have a policy also to protect people, because coming out of the closet at work is one, but are people gossiping about you on the street? So and are you in danger on the street? So people of the organization need to have policies on that.
Thanks.
Welcome, welcome. Yeah. Oh, Koos, you are in the mute stand. Yeah.
At least one is muted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions from anyone? I don't.
If there's nothing, I have a completely different question, which has been bugging me for a while in Dutch language. I know there's pronouns for non-binaries in English are they, them, and there's a whole lot of them which are similar or related or still highlighting a different aspect, but I haven't been able to find anything in Dutch yet. What would be the Dutch standard non-binary pronoun?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Discussion all over the place. It is hij, hen, hen, hun.
Mm-hmm.
And I vote for die.
Yeah.
D-I-E. D-A-E. There is not a good word for that. In the English language, it's more easy. They, them, theirs. But in the Dutch language, difficult.
Yeah, because it would refer to the same. If it would do the same as the English, it would be zij, which is the same as the female gendered.
Yeah, that's the difficulty.
That's why I got really confused when I was looking at this. Yeah.
At this moment, it is hun, hen.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's puzzling. Yeah, yeah. It's not still a way to go.
Yes, coming back to this point, indeed, there are many ways, and I've seen people don't care at all. They say just any. That's fine, or try to prevent it. Just mention the name of the person. Mm-hmm. I think Jake would like to join in this meeting, this discussion. Jake.
Yeah, I was just going to add too that as a Dutch language learner, and what you have to be able to do to pass like the national exams for becoming Dutch citizen, etc., as there are sections where you have to describe your family life and your relationships and things. That's incredibly difficult to do when there aren't pronouns or real strong language words to use in those situations. And certainly my Dutch teacher had no idea. I had to find one of my out gay students to help teach me how to describe gay relationships in such a setting.
Yeah, it is. The language is still not there. That's the evolution point, because what I told also in my presentation, the Q was not there a long time, and now the younger generation pushed it in again. And so, and also in the Dutch language, English is more rich than Dutch, I think, but Dutch is also interesting language, but it's difficult. We are also puzzling on that and looking for the best ways. It is a constant search. But wish you luck. Good luck with because that's a second layer. You are learning Dutch, but yeah. And even me as a native Dutch speaking person, it is a puzzle. We try to find the words for it, and we listen to the community and what do you want and how do you want to be named. And the result is here, what I said in the presentation, but it's not an end result. It's an evolution.
Exactly. Okay, that was an interesting question again, Ilse. Mm-hmm. So, any more interesting questions then from anyone? No. And then I would like to thank Christine very much for this interesting presentation. It was wonderful to hear all the activities that are ongoing. To be honest, proud to be a member of NWA, supporting this organization, and maybe to learn also from these activities there. So thank you very much, Christine, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, that's great. Is it okay to stay 1 minute here in the Zoom, Koos?
Joel, is that okay?